I will now call the meeting to order. Can I get a roll call, please? Here. Item 2. Members of the audience may at this time address the Board of Education regarding only matters on closed session and on the study session agendas. Are there any members of the public who wish to address the Board of Education? Not seeing anyone, we'll go right into our study session. And who's introducing that? Okay, Dr. Kovacs, would you like to introduce that?
I sure will. Good afternoon. This afternoon, our Executive Director of Student Support Services, Laura Musa, will be reporting out on Results 3, which is citizenship, and Results 4, which is health and personal development.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. We're going to start with the orange packet, and then right by it is some panorama data with the actual questions this time that were asked, and so we're going to go over this as well during this R3 portion. So if you recall, R3 is our citizenship report. We're going to report on 3.1, understand and respect diversity and practice inclusion and equity. 3.2, students will be responsible for their own behaviors and recognize the consequences of their individual choices. 3.3, be able to communicate and collaborate with others appropriately to foster belonging and contribute to the well-being of their school and community. And 3.4, have extracurricular opportunities in their school and community that enhance the environment. Forgot to advance the slides. So 3.1, students will understand and respect diversity and practice inclusion and equity. On your panorama data, the very first page were the questions that students were asked under diversity and inclusion. These questions were asked to all 6th through 12th grade students. We have 10,753 students in those grades, and around 9,652, give or take, answered the questions. You'll see that the number under the question gives you the responses, and the response rate isn't always the same. So maybe a student skips a question or a couple students skip that question. Then it's going to tell you the percentile that responded favorably, agree, definitely agree, and then there's even a higher rating, significantly agree. That's how it collects, it totals all those scores. The gray area is going to be neutral, and then the orange is going to be disagree, strongly disagree. And then at the far right, you're going to see the percentage of increase from last year. So overall, for diversity, equity, and inclusion, we went up as a district in all areas. Some areas went up more than others. So the first bar up here, diversity and inclusion, is for all the questions grouped together. 73%, that puts us increasing by 1%. And then this first page breaks down all the questions that totaled that 73%. And so I wanted to just share with you what the questions were, because in previous years I had given it to you verbally, but I wanted you to see what the actual questions were and what each person rated. And then I also want to share with you, it's not written down there, I went and looked at our 5 top racial ethnicity groups, and I wanted to see what their total number was if I just looked at them. So the overall rating for all students, 73% average. For Latino students went up 5% from the previous year, and their average was 72%. African American students had a 7% increase, and their average was a 69%. White students went up 3%. Their average 73%, and our 2 or more races went up 4% for their average to be 78%. Sorry.
Where's that at, Laura? Is that on here?
No, this is just me calculating it. Sorry, the white students are at 83%. 2 or more races, 78%. When you average all of our student groups together, we get 73% as our average. But I wanted to show you that even though this shows a 1% increase as a district, some of our subgroups had larger increases than others.
And so this survey that you have, this is just a general survey that you guys do, and that is in response to these that we have here?
This is the panorama survey that we do annually, twice a year for secondary students, and then annually for elementary students in grades 3 through 5.
Now, what is these events, or what do they have to do?
So then this is also reporting out from, Dr. Hunt gave me some information on some of our diversity and equity events that the district hosted. And so there was the Student Voice Panel at the Equity Conference, Taste of Soul event, Unity in the Community, the Rainbow Youth Summit, Multicultural Festival, and Equity Conference. These don't have anything to do with the survey. They're just other events or things that we put on in the district around diversity and equity.
Oh, okay, because I was wondering if you guys maybe got stats from those events, or,
I do not have stats from those events.
okay.
When you said our white our group of students, it was 83%, and what did they go up or down?
7%.
And what about two or more?
2 or more races, 78%, and they went up 3%.
Okay, thank you.
I made a list of more than those events and ways how we practice diversity and equity, and more than a survey. And this is like really important events that support and show that we are not just talking about it and we're reading questions, that we are implementing it. And so I came up with 28 different ways that we're supporting equity, diversity, and health. And I think that we need to build on that. That is just like, just a snapshot, not even that. You know?
It is just a snapshot because we have results 13 that Dr. Kovat, results 13, right? OE 13, sorry, that has a broader program. So yes, we just put a snapshot in. But are you referring to that list you gave me?
Yeah, I created a list of all the events that contribute to mental health and diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I think that this is a strength of the district. And I really, even if you just put an addendum in and you revisited OE 13, it would just, you know, kind of like frost the cake. It would show us, yes, this is us. We're really, really strong. And, you know, you're going to talk about the Golden Bell probably, but, you know, this is one of our feathers in our cap, for me. And so when I read that slide, I was like so disappointed that amazing things are happening at many different levels.
And we do share out a lot of what we're doing when we do our monthly department updates. So I didn't want to repeat things that we had just done, but we will take this list and see how we can incorporate it.
Well, I think it's important. That's really, I think my point is, we worked hard to build from that first equity, I guess, list of ideas that we had for our board policy. And, you know, this is like something that Palm Springs Unified is known for as being strong, I think.
Thank you for that. This is the school, yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you made that list because there were several things on there that I had forgotten about. So thank you for that.
And I forgot the bias training. I like that is really important. That I have
So
more.
cultural awareness and action. This is the next place we interviewed students. It's the second page in your packet there. This asks students questions about race, talking about race. Do adults talk about race? We went up 4% as a district, 64%, but I wanted to point out that Panorama reported to us that our school district is in the 90 percentile nationwide. So Madonna, to your point, we are well known for the work that we're doing. And for us to be in the 90th percentile at only 64% is pretty good for us. I think we can be a lot better. I'd like to see us a lot higher, but that is something that they acknowledged, that we were in the 90th percentile. The questions there for cultural awareness.
How could we get higher? Like, How do you do that?
We have to talk about race more often. We have to be okay having courageous conversations. We have to address hate speech when we hear it. All the things that we're doing, but we have to be more vocal about it and okay with having hard conversations, you know? If we hear it, we have to say something about it. We should be proud of the actions that we're taking, but it means like doing it more often and always doing it and not being afraid of talking
Bring
about
it back,
race. Yeah. So this gives you some of the student results. I just wanted to give it to you by some of our groups again. So our Hispanic students, so overall average 64%. Our Hispanic students went up 3% instead of the 4% that the whole district had at 63%. Our African American students went up 4%, 57%. Our 2 or more races went up 2% at 61%, and our white students went up 4% at 64%. So I wanted to make sure that we looked at the student groups, and I want to acknowledge that the African American group is still feeling the lowest of all the groups at 57%. While there is growth and they feel like we're talking about race more, we still have a lot of work to do with that subgroup of students.
I'm curious to know, have we thought as a district to maybe get a survey done or do some real deep research into understanding why historically our African American students underperform in a lot of statistical categories as well as feeling belonging in the district? Have we thought about doing some sort of a real deep actual dive or study or report to find out why our students continue to have that as historically happen? Have we thought about that as a district?
Not necessarily specifically for our African American students, at least for my time in this seat. We have implemented empathy interviews with students, with different student groups, but specifically for that student group, Mr. Urban, no, not that I know of. Like a root cause analysis, basically, is what you're referring to.
Could we look at something like that? I mean, I think that a real study needs to be done. And I don't know, maybe if it's compared to California or, you know, over the whole United States or whatever. But for me as an African American, of course, it has been like that from as far as I can remember. And I think that a study is warranted to figure out how they continue to lag behind. Even when we show results, even when we show improvement, they're still the bottom of everything and participation and everything. So could we look into doing something like that? I think that is something that could be very beneficial going forward. We're about academics and our scholars, and I think before we can ever solve the problem, we need to know what the problem is. And so I think we haven't never figured out what is the real problem. And I think a study would be able to tell us what the problem is and how we can be able to improve it. So our scholars can improve academic-wise and all around.
We piloted with Riverside County Office of Education, African American Engaged Parent. It's a really long acronym. Last year, several of us went to some of their meetings, and we piloted a student voice and empathy interviews with Palm Springs High School. And it was done with African American students, Latino students, and special education and foster youth students. And they modeled for us how to do these interviews, and I believe we shared out those results. But we could look into something larger and specifically what that might look like.
Thank you, Laura. I appreciate that. Thank you, Simone, as well. Mr. Irvin, I appreciate your recommendation and direction for us. What we'll do is we'll take that information, we'll look for the best type of study that can be done out there, and we'll bring it back to the board for further discussion and direction.
I'm not sure how the board feels, but
No, I think it's important.
Is that the only student group that we would need to, do a root analysis? Simone, you think, in looking at the data and our history, are there other student groups that show a great area of need as well?
Our foster youth were, but they have made massive improvements in our English language learners. Yeah. those are some groups that, for this particular thing, we don't ask them if they're an English language learner, so we can't pull that data out. But when I talk about suspensions and attendance, I will highlight how African American and foster youth have moved in our dashboards for that as well. There's 2 more indicators up there. So sense of belonging went up 4%. You'll remember a couple years ago, this was very low, and it was a focus on working on sense of belonging. Do students feel connected? There's another place in this results that we report out specifically on sense of belonging, so I don't want to spend too much time on it, but it did go up 5%. And all of our subgroups had an increase as well. So that was a good result. And then the last one there, which is still very low, this is our sexual orientation and gender identification. So we do ask a couple questions if students align with this group. And the last questions there on the back, you can see a lot more orange, and this is specifically to sexual orientation, gender identification. Do people talk about it? Do you feel discriminated? How confident are you that you can have honest conversations? This remains an area that we really need to look into, and this could be students of any race might also identify this way, and so you can identify in a multitude of gender orientation roles, and then you have your race and ethnicity as well. So this is an area that we need to do some more work on, but we did go up as a district 3%. All of our groups also went up in this area as well, but you can see there 25%, we have some work to do. In cabinet, we looked at staff responses and to this area as well, and staff is also in the 20 percentile. So there's more work that needs to be done on accepting our students and our staff in the myriad of ways that they show up. So I just wanted you to have the questions because we had been lacking that in previous years. So hopefully that's helpful for you. So that's diversity and equity and inclusion. I appreciate the feedback. It helps us to get better each time. The next one is going to be students will be responsible for behavior and recognize the consequences of their individual choices. We look at suspension rates for this, and we also look at high-risk decisions that students might make. And so for our suspension rates, we're really excited that we had great growth. And as a district, we went from yellow on the dashboard to green on the dashboard. We were able to decrease our suspension rates for the 3rd year in a row. We reduced to 4.4% last year, and we're on track to decrease again for this year. We were able to move 7 student groups up a level. So interestingly enough, our American Indian group, which last year was our only group in the red, they took a jump up, and it was 4 students that fell into that group last year, but this year we jumped up to 12 students in that group. So we got more students in that range, and they went up as well. So student groups that increased were American Indian, our LTELs, which is good, our ELLs increased, our Hispanic group increased. Decreased in suspensions, went up to a better color on the dashboard. Our Hispanic group, low socioeconomics, and then of really great importance to us is students with disabilities and foster youth, because previously we had been in differentiated assistance because those 2 groups had consistently been in the red for chronic absenteeism and suspension, and we moved out of differentiated assistance, and we moved both of those groups up significantly. So we're really happy with that work. Now, African American students did stay the same. Also, let me see here. Pacific Islanders dropped down an area.
Could we get this in a visual or in a summary? Because you're saying a lot of groups, and I want to look at that and see it from your lens too.
Sure.
So this is general, but the backstory behind the jumps or decreases for like our Native Americans or foster groups, I think that tells us the story in more details if we see it even in, points like this group went up. You don't have to do bar graphs and a lot, just show us rather than tell us those
Laura,
ideas.
also beside material question, there are schools that do better than other ones in suspension.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the school district put more attention to those schools.
No, we really have been working on other means of correction. We've been doing a lot of work with providing tier 2 and tier 3 supports for behavior. The behavior team has expanded the amount of people we have working on behavior. The professional developments we've been doing around behavior have been significant. Our wellness centers have shown a 3% increase in attendance for students and a 40% decline in suspensions if there's a wellness center on campus. When we give you our monthly suspension report, you can see it by school, and you can see across the 5 years which schools have gotten better. We don't have any schools that have gotten worse. Every single school has made improvements. The most improvements have been made at high school. High school has reduced by half. They were around 400, 500 suspensions a year, and this year we're down at like 200. Elementary's been pretty steady, and then middle school has also, almost every single middle school has reduced their suspensions. What we do is we go out to the schools that have a higher level of suspension than others, and we meet with them and we review with them what's their positive behavior systems, what type of supports do they need, do we need to bring our behavior team in to do staff meetings with their staff. Catherine Finchy was a school we were at today in their wellness center, and Matt Hammond was sharing with Mountain View School District that was visiting that he had a very high suspension rate previously, and he had a lot of suspensions for students with disabilities, and having the wellness center, how that's helped. And we've been doing staff development on de-escalation for his staff, and how thankful he was that we had those services for him. So I can get you something in the Friday about which subgroups moved. There's no percentile movement for suspensions, but I can tell you who went from one color to the next.
Yeah, and like who moved up and who moved down.
Yep.
That probably just hits it where we need to know right now at this point in time, unless the board wants more information than that.
No.
Yeah.
You need wellness center on every
We
campus.
do. We do. And I bug Jeff because every day I'm like, hey, I got another grant. I got more money. I need to spend it. I need to open another wellness center. So Catherine Finchy just opened. Kauai and Rio Vista are ready to go. And then we've got Painted Hills and Cathedral City High School coming next. We want one at every school site. Yes.
Is the foundation still active in helping in open awareness wellness center?
They did the startup for Rio Vista, Kauai, and Catherine Finchy, yeah.
Right now they're not.
My team has actually been meeting with the foundation board. They just had a meeting 2 days ago, and the foundation would like a lot more data from us. They were so excited when we shared with them some of our recent data that I shared with you 2 weeks ago at the board meeting. They were blown away by that and said, can you come present to our whole board? We're just so excited the results that you're getting.
And I just want to add, with Laura and her team's vision around this and the support of the foundation, that's the foundation where we have our wellness centers, but they've been instrumental in ensuring that their procedures, processes, and staff, and that's where a lot of the grants come in. So that's what's critical is to ensure we have the staff that's there the entire day to support the students.
So the foundation builds the room, decorates it, helps with that, and then student services comes in, and we place a wellness coach, a counselor, a mental health therapist, 3 different staff members across the tiers, and we do onboarding and training. And I was just talking to Madonna and Karen earlier, saying we need to go out and do a visit with the board because I need photos because I'm applying for the Golden Bell for our wellness center work. So we're going to get one. We have 16 of 26. So we're on our way. We had 3 years ago, so we've made great strides. We had 3 years ago, then 6, 16 this school year.
I'm so glad to see the foundation still actively involved and supporting that. It was a great partnership and still is. Good to hear that still continues.
So for safety, we
Quickly,
also...
Laura, before you move on. For the stats for the African Americans, were those numbers still in the orange or the red? And where did they rank?
Suspension rates for African Americans are in the orange.
Okay. And then, so where do they rank amongst our different groups? You know?
So in the orange is African American, American Indian, Pacific Islander, and in the red is two or more races.
Okay.
If you could include that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We also ask students, staff, and families, do they feel safe on campus? And so this is our reporting out for safety. So 72% of students feel very safe or safe on campus. That's an increase of 3%. Our staff is an increase of 3% at 68%. And our families had an increase of 2% at 96%. And so staff has been slowly coming up. You'll remember when we came out of COVID, we were in the 50s in 2021. And so we've been slowly building staff back up. Our students continue to be increasing as well. So we're glad to see that this is on an increase.
When you talk to staff, and what is their reasons for not feeling safe on campus?
It can be a multitude of things. It could be they don't feel safe because they don't have full-time patrol. It could be that there's a student that makes them feel unsafe. It could be that there's a parent that comes on campus and makes them feel unsafe. Some of our schools, it might be the community around them or the perception of the community around them. When we look at this by school site, it's interesting to see which schools have a lower perception of safety than others. So historically, Bubbling Wells and DSMS and Painted Hills have a lower safety rating than, say, a Cathedral City Elementary School or a Sunny Sands. There's definitely, you can see by the area that sometimes is a perception. If there's been any activity in the neighborhood, so there was a couple shootings over by Cathedral City Elementary School and James Workman last year, so that could affect some of the ratings as well. But some of it's students on campus. And then sometimes we get these weird anomalies where if there was a fight on campus the day they took the survey, then they sometimes will rate it. That happened to Nellie Kaufman a couple years ago.
And this survey is just done once a year in winter, or do we have like a beginning and end?
It says winter, but it actually was given January through March. So we just gave this survey. It's
Okay.
given twice a year.
Twice a year.
Okay, next is students will be able to communicate and collaborate with others appropriately, foster belonging, and contribute to the well-being of their school. And so you'll see we have sense of belonging and connectedness here. And we ask all of our groups for their response with the belonging, and you have the questions there in your packet. We've gone up 4% in this area. All groups went up in this area as well. Our staff sense of belonging also increased as well. Again, this is one snapshot that we get on the day that they take the survey. So we also like to look at what are some other things that contribute to belonging at the school sites. And so we've reported out to you previously State Seal of Civic Engagement. This is when the students elect to participate in a project to make their school better. They have to take some courses, complete a project. I know there were students this year from Palm Springs High School that reached out to Dr. Funchess about menstrual products. There was another group that reached out to Alex Borrego's office about some of our bullying reporting. And so students come up with a project that they want to complete to make the district better. Last year, we had a record high 461 students get the State Seal of Civic Engagement, and we don't know the number yet for this school year because they're not completed yet. So when we have that number, we'll report out to you. And then we were not reporting to you on the State Seal of Biliteracy, which for me is such an important thing. I begged my daughter to please get her seal of biliteracy. So this means that our students are certified bilingual. They have to pass rigorous tests to show that they're bilingual. bilingual and the importance of being biliterate. So not only do they have to be bilingual, they have to be able to read and they have to be able to take a test in another language. And so I wanted to add this to the report this year. Last year, we had 268 students get the state seal of biliteracy, and this year, that number will be even higher. So once we have that number, we'll share that with you.
The seal of civil engagement, is that an elective related to getting the seal or a number of classes?
It's a number of classes they have to
Number of
take.
classes?
Yeah.
And then, what was I going to say? Is it attainable for more students? Is it something, but, because biliteracy is definitely Spanish or another language. But could it be broadened at all? Is it going to be part of portrait
We
of a
can't broaden
graduate?
it. The state has a really specific set of criteria. They have to take their U.S. history, their economics. Like it's a very structured program. We can advertise it and make sure more high schools are doing it, or more students at the high school are doing it, but we can't change the parameters of it.
And it's not a club or a pathway?
No, it's not a club or a pathway.
And you answer my question, maybe that's only high school students?
Actually, state seal of biliteracy, you can get up to 8th grade too. There's an 8th grade version, and then you can continue on and become certified through high school.
Okay, thanks.
I'm curious to know, for the civic engagement, when does that start? Who initiates it? And how do our families know that it exists?
I'm not sure because Deanna Killian gives me the information, so we'll find out for you.
Okay, please. Thank you.
It's community service. It has to be a project out in the community. So it has to address an issue that is not only in the school district, but out in the community. And they have to go and present to an outside agency or get an outside agency's involvement. I wish we had a community service requirement in this district. It would be great. And I know other districts have that, but this is a piece where they do have to go out and serve in the community and help solve a problem. We've had other students do homeless kits to working to help the homeless out here in the heat. So very interesting projects. And then finally, students will have extracurricular opportunities in their school and a community that enhance their environment. Last year, you asked me, how do we know of all of our students if they participate in at least one thing? So I did get that number for you this year. So I'll share that number with you in a minute because I do take the notes on the things you asked me and make sure I bring them back. So we have a ton of extracurricular activities. I only listed a few here. These are recent pictures from recent events that we had. We have our district spelling bee, district science fair, district track meet, adopt the arts, the Changeals music group. Wow, they're fantastic. MTU Junior, robotics, the drones. There's so many things, it's hard to list them all. But we do ask our students, please tell us what you're engaged in. And so what came out of this is 70% of the students surveyed. So remember, we're only surveying, this is only 6th grade through 12th grade. We surveyed 9,844 students. And of those 9,844 students, 70% said they participate in at least one extracurricular activity. Some participate in up to 20 extracurricular activities. What you'll see here is they then select the activities that they participate in. It is not an all-inclusive list. It's the list that Jim Pfeffer captures that most schools have, and then we ask students to identify what they participate in. So you can see here that, and the left-hand side is one grouping here, and then the right-hand side looks at like bigger chunks of things like music and leadership and arts and sports. And so I was pleased to see that at least 70% of our kids do at least one thing. That's really good. That shows that's another way to look at school belonging and engagement. And then you can see the number next to it is the amount of students that said, yes, they participate in that. I was actually surprised that sports was only 3,000 students. I thought it'd be a little larger, but 3,000 of 9,800 is at least a third of our students participating in sports. Then you have arts is the next very strong activity. Now the ones on the left, are particular to groups of students where they might identify with a group. So you would expect those numbers to be lower on that side. So I just wanted to give you a snapshot of what students are reporting. Again, it's not an all-exhaustive list, and some of the things that Madonna has on her list might be good ones for me to work with Jim on getting added as choices.
You know, I see the next slide, I'm going jumping, but, you know, I think it's more than reasonable progress for diversity, equity, and inclusion. I just see that, you know, it exceeds making progress or.
I don't know that there's a higher rating. I think making reasonable progress is as high as we go.
I don't know.
I wish there was an exceeding or A plus or A, but making reasonable progress is the highest rating we use, and so we believe we've been making reasonable progress in all areas. Yes, there's some room to grow, and there's more details to dig into and studies, but overall, we're making reasonable progress.
And
Still got more
question
work to do.
about extracurricular activities. There are many students that they participate in more than one activity, the same student. They have limits or
Only if their parents limit them for driving them around. We have some students, I know, oh my gosh, when you go to the awards nights, like the Cathedral City, I remember Karen's granddaughter just kept going back up there. She was involved, it blew my mind in how many things. Now, what limits them sometimes is if they're an athlete, sometimes it's really hard to also be in band, but we have kids that do it. We have kids that might do MTU, band, and be an athlete, and I don't know how their mom or dad must be a taxi service, but we have some kids that are extraordinary with the amount of things they get involved in. Look at our student board members. I guarantee you that our student board members are doing like 10, 12 things. It's amazing.
On the slide with extracurricular activities, we really are missing the ball and not including ELOP. A lot of kids are participating in all of those.
We used to include that in here, but now it's reported out in its own report out. So anything that is reported out on its own, we pulled out so it wasn't repetitive, because this study session used to be 2 hours long, and we're trying to like not give you a repeat, but yes.
ELOP might be a heavy hitter here, right? And
It is.
we don't need to know exactly what an ELOP, but if students are staying for after-school tutoring or reading or whatever programs, that counts.
I'd say a community service can use some improvement. I think that's a lost art form. The community service, it also gives them an opportunity to go into certain careers after school. And I think that with this 10%, a lot of times our students are not having access to jobs and different career activities without getting this community service. So if there was any of them that I've seen on the list that I would say that I think we should maybe look at to do a little bit more improvement is our community service, because it gives our students the opportunity to be able to go out and get a job right after school or go into a trade with having some experience. So that's just all I would say.
Extracurricular activities and the sense of belonging.
That is the hope, right? That if you are more active and participating in the outside the classroom activities, that you're more connected to your school site. And there are students that don't feel connected to the classroom, but their connection to school is only through sports or only through music or only through art. And so it's really important that we provide all these other opportunities outside of the classroom as well.
Because our sense of belonging is not very good.
No, but it's going up, and it continues to go up. We just need to do a little more honing in on why they don't always feel connected.
But it went down, and then it started going back up. Do we know why it went down?
It went down because, so the first year out of COVID, we were really focused on SEL. We were really focused on how's everybody doing. Let's not put a lot of pressure on everyone. Let's make sure we're all feeling good and doing well. And then the next year, there was the pressure of, well, we got to get back to academics because the dashboard came back. Our attendance isn't doing so well, and so there was a lot of pressure to be academic and to focus more on getting back to testing and getting back to school, and we kind of lost a little bit of that we want you to feel okay too, and now we're kind of finding a balance.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many of our CTE and academic pathways require community service? I know some of them do. Do most of them?
Yes, I was just making a note of that for Dr. Dimick. Yeah, most of them do. They get out in the community. We have so many internships, quite a few companies who work with our students. And I know we've shared that information. I'll compile that again so we can communicate that.
I think a lot of high school students do community service.
Yes, they do.
I'm surprised it's only at 10%.
Exactly.
Did you see CSBA's article about the correlation between athletes and attendance, that students who participate in athletics have better attendance than those who don't? And so that's interesting that we can hook kids with sports and maybe other types of sports,
Yeah.
pickleball or, other types that aren't like your, general types of sports. So maybe they are in the ELOP program and we just don't know that.
Are you okay with me moving on to 4? Results 4?
Any other questions about citizenship?
Thank you.
Okay, on to R4, health and personal development.
So your recommendation is that we're meeting and exceeding?
Making reasonable
Making
progress.
reasonable? Okay.
Making reasonable progress.
There is no exceeding.
There's always room for improvement.
Yeah.
Strong progress.
Getting colder and colder in here.
Sorry, Joan. So this is health and personal development. So students will acquire skills and knowledge necessary to make informed choices, exhibit the habits and behaviors to achieve productivity, healthy, and balanced lives. So they will understand and practice components of good health, including engaging regularly in physical activity and being physically healthy, practicing good nutrition, avoiding high-risk behaviors, exhibiting positive social emotional behavior and mental well-being, having positive attendance and character traits. So the first one, physically fit, we report out to you that we meet our annual PE minutes and our physical fitness test results were added. Madonna had asked about that. So our physical fitness results, we went up in all areas from 2024, so that was good. We increased across the board, and we are getting very high in some areas, such as trunk extension and upper body strength. I also wanted to mention to you that part of this is making sure our students have access to doctors, dentists, vision. Laura Dyson does an amazing job at reaching out to community partners to bring in vision screenings for 9,000 students, hearing screenings for 88,000 students, the mobile health clinics that she does. Vision to Learn, you'll remember, most of you went with us to VDM a couple years ago when we piloted that. Just this year, we provided 1,400 glasses to students in the district who wouldn't otherwise be able to see very well. And we have a mobile dental lab now. I don't know if you know that. So she was like, mobile health is not enough. I'm going to go get a mobile dentist. We filled 1,131 cavities this year. I don't know if that's a good statistic or a bad statistic, but that was free at no cost for our families who were afraid to send their kids to the dentist. And you'll remember about 2 years ago, I reported out that only 30% of our kids reported seeing a dentist in the last 3 years. And so now we're bringing that to our families. Just amazing what she does. Also new, I believe it came to the board, she has been teaching CPR to anyone who wants it. And so we have 400 employees trained and 100 students trained just this school year in CPR. And she still has a couple more Saturday sessions open. So if anyone needs CPR, we run them on the weekends. So come and check it out. So we do amazing providing health benefits to our families. Practicing good nutrition. This is Jeff's team here. This was reported out previously to you in the Child Nutrition Services update, but over 3.6 million meals served annually. The number was still growing at the time that Sarah gave this to me. So these were the numbers from February. So she would expect them to be online with the other school years by the time that we finish. And so we do an amazing job serving meals to our families. Anything else you want to add to that? You said low sugar, and what else did you say?
And we even have had some salad bars. Are we still doing that, Jeff?
A to Z salad bars?
Yes.
Kids are not going to like you, John.
They have strict guidelines that they have to follow.
Jeff and I recently learned that the pizza is cut differently if you're in preschool versus TK. We learned that the hard way. Pizza actually has a different size at 5th grade and at junior high as well, so they're super specific. But we'll add that notation there for you.
Can students get extra food before they leave school that is not opened or like not touched or, because there's some schools I've read about that kids go hungry when they walk out the door and they stay hungry until the next morning. So do we do anything?
So we do provide supper in some cases.
Supper, we also have sharing tables.
But like, these are the kids that leave. They don't stay for supper. They have to leave because they're being picked up. So, or walkers. Is there a way that kids can take home food because they're not going to eat unless they're at school?
We can look into that as part of the supper meal. I think there's time frames involved, but I'll double check on that. But there's also the sharing tables where if students want to take some more items from that our other kids aren't eating, they have to take a certain certain foods from there if they're getting one of the meals. But then obviously some kids don't eat all of it or whatever. So. And then some others do want to, take extra home. So I know that they'll do that. But as far as a take home, I'll have to double check on that and get back with you.
And if you have it,
It's-
it's not wasting the food and our
Yeah.
kids who need it.
Yeah, we can. They provide. The supper meals, and there's also some potential for snacks through like the ELAP program and so forth. So there's different ways that we can, certainly feed the kids. Supper is kind of a newer program, but any kid that wants a supper meal, we provide it as well. So
Just to go.
So in ACES and in ELAP, they do provide snacks, right, after school. Also, do we still have Fine Food Bank coming onto our campuses, like Agua Caliente, and where else do we, out in, I know Desert Hot Springs somewhere.
There's a Desert Hot Springs location. It was DSMS. I'm not quite sure if it's still there, but Agua Caliente also, yes.
You had it at Del Lindley or, yeah.
And then if any
We did
family
years
reaches
ago.
out to student services, we have gift cards, grocery cards, all sorts of other supports we can provide a family that might need some food assistance as well.
So what would they reach out and ask, and who would they ask?
They can contact student services.
And what would they just say, we don't have enough food?
They would say we need help with resources or services, and then we have our community liaisons do a whole intake with them. Do they need help with housing? Do they need help with gas? Do they need help with groceries? What's their situation?
Would you
There's
say,
also a form, if staff members are aware, they can refer a family to us for support services.
would you say that would alert or alarm CPS?
No,
Okay.
no.
Do we have very many families use those services?
We have about 400 right now. We have a lot of people asking for gas cards, but we can't just provide gas cards. If we have a family that is unhoused and is traveling great distance to get their students to school, we can work with them on gas cards, but we have more people than normal needing gas cards because the price of gas is so high. But we have very strict parameters of how we can use that money. But yes, if they're a low-income family, if they're a Medi-Cal family, if they're unhoused, we have a lot of extra resources.
So we have about 400 families right
Yes.
now.
Yep. Avoiding high-risk behaviors. So we're looking at, do students make good choices? We also look at our drug and alcohol offenses, which used to be at an all-time high and have significantly decreased. You'll remember we sent our 11 prevention specialists to become drug and alcohol counselors through University of San Diego, and they have been working with students who had offenses for drug and alcohol, and this gives you a snapshot of any drug and alcohol offense over the last, I think it's 7 years or 8, 8 years. You can see we had a very high amount, and you'll remember because I used to come to you a lot in closed session. We had a very high amount of drug and alcohol possession, first time, sixth time, seventh time, eighth time. We are not having that anymore. This school year, we've had 128 total offenses, and we have had no repeat offenses. We've had a 30% reduction from 2023 to 2024 for drug and alcohol. This year, we're on track for a 49% reduction in drug and alcohol offenses. And our students are rating themselves less risky. So secondary, they rated themselves 93% making good choices. And our elementary are always a little more honest at 87% making good choices. So we're really excited. So this school year, of the 128 students that received a suspension or another means of correction for drug and alcohol, of the 128, 94 of them completed their substance abuse lessons, 5 lessons with the prevention specialist, and none of them have had a repeat offense. So that's a huge win for us. We're really excited about that, and we feel very strongly about the impact of those prevention specialists. Their focus this year has been on fighting. So the prevention specialists will meet with any student who's involved in a fight or an altercation or a drug and alcohol offense. While they haven't been busy with drugs and alcohol, they've been more busy with behavior management. So this year, they've met with 227 students for behavior management. So you can kind of see fights as 2 to 1 over drugs and alcohol.
So would you say if a student had an altercation where they got into a fight, they would go see that person to discuss it versus being suspended?
Yes, they would talk about making good choices. Why did you make those choices? Anger management, breathing techniques. They're required to meet with the prevention specialist 5 times to go through the lessons and goal setting around it. Now, that doesn't always mean they wouldn't have been suspended. They could also have been suspended and then also get the behavior management. Now, for fights, we have repeat offenders, and some of those come and see you later on because we exhaust all resources and we're putting them up for expulsion. But we find that most students learn when they have these one-on-one sessions with the prevention specialists.
So how many times do they get before they're actually suspended?
It depends on the incident, depends on the age, depends on the circumstances.
Just hypothetically speaking, say an elementary student.
An elementary student would get other means of correction before suspension.
How many different?
It depends. If they're special education, they're going to get lots of means of correction before suspension. If they're a gen ed student who went after someone unprovoked with no previous interventions, no nothing, just attack someone, they're probably going to get a suspension.
How many times have we administered Narcan to our students or in the workplace?
I would not know that.
You didn't know that?
No.
That's interesting because there's a new drug called cyclorphin or fine, and it's a designer drug. People are dying. It's from Europe, and it doesn't respond to Narcan.
Yeah, I don't know the Narcan numbers. I don't know if
I just
Renee would know
wonder,
that or.
Because, this is coming down to lower levels, and it's really something new that we hope to never see overdoses.
So I do know that our security officers, Ms. Jarrell, our CSOs are campus security officers, they keep Narcan on them. So we can get that information from Alex Borrego and make sure that we update the board this Friday. If there's any, I was in my one-on-one with him about a week ago. I don't know if we have had to use it just yet. So, but we'll make sure that we get you that information.
Yeah, and I believe that because I haven't heard anything and I haven't seen anything, it hasn't happened.
I know that it happened in 2024, 2025. We had one student. Because I'll get the ambulance alert and it actually
Yeah, you can
put an
see the
alert on there
cause.
for us. But this year, I haven't been alerted to any. But
That's
that
a
doesn't
drop.
mean they haven't used it.
Laura, sorry, about, for example, the student fighting, most of the time is one, the aggressor and the victim. There is support for both? If, for example, the victims see the other student that school district is giving more changes, but they can't think that school district is not doing nothing because the student is still there. But it's something that we do for the victim families,
Yes.
explaining what the school district is doing.
Yes, so a lot of times parents get upset and they say, well, my child was just defending themselves. We don't have a self-defense. There's nothing in ed code about self-defense. It's all we have is a mutual fight. So if a student and another student are having a conversation, it turns into an argument, it turns into them fighting one another, that is considered a 48900A1, which is a fight. We don't have anything that says victim or aggressor. If a student is attacked unprovoked, that's something different than a fight, right? So there's, like I was saying to Mr. Irvin, there's nuances to it. We always want to try to mediate before something happens if we know about it. A lot of times in today's age, it starts on social media and then it flows over into the school, or it starts with families against families and it flows over into the school. So we like to do a mediation first. We try to do a restorative conference with both parties. We have stay-away contracts to try to keep them separate from one another. We might change classes. We might offer mental health. We might offer counseling interventions. A lot of times we don't know and the fight erupts. So when the fight happens, what we always want to make sure is, one, are our kids physically safe? Do they need medical treatment? Two, why did this happen? Is this something that could happen again? Do they have classes together? And then do we need to provide any supportive measures like mental health or change of a classroom or assigning a safe person or a safe classroom? So there's a lot of things that we do to help the students in that situation.
Thank you.
So, and you might have addressed this. If you did, forgive me. Do we know why we're seeing this decrease in drug and alcohol offenses? Is it something particular we're doing, or is it a societal thing, or why is it going down? I mean, I like seeing these statistics. They're very positive, but I think the reason we do these studies is to figure out why. What's behind it?
Yeah, drug and alcohol offenses are going down nationwide. There's a large amount of alcohol is almost non-existent on campuses. I cannot think of a time that alcohol has been brought on the campus in like 3 or 4 years. So let's take alcohol out. That used to be the thing, but nobody drinks anymore. Then we had the influx of the marijuana vape pens, and there was a lot of students vaping and getting caught for vaping, and that has declined significantly. One, because people are afraid of what they're getting now because there's been a lot of deaths around fentanyl. There's been when I thought I was getting this one thing and I ended up getting something else, and so there's a little bit of fear around that. Then there's probably kids hiding it and us not catching them because they're savvy. I'm not gonna act like it's not happening. There might be the cases that we're not finding it, but a lot of kids realize when they see their friends expelled or they see that someone's going to rehab, like it starts to become something that kids are like, well, maybe we shouldn't be doing this in school. Maybe we should be doing this on the weekend. We had such a huge issue with vaping. Tobacco at first, and it was so addictive, and we were having a lot of students that were getting consequences and getting suspended for something they couldn't control, and they really needed support with rehab. And you'll remember Rancho Mirage High School had a very significant amount of offenses, and it was so significantly high that the county said, we need to come help you because this is looking like an addiction. And so we've had the Riverside University Health has had a drug therapist on Rancho Mirage's campus for 3 years now, helping kids who came to us and said, I can't quit. I don't know how to quit. I need help quitting. And instead of suspending them and keeping them home and giving them access, we're keeping them in school and we're educating them and helping the family get clean. And so I think part of what we're doing is we're trying to realize there's a root cause for why a student is using drugs or alcohol. And we need to be more sensitive to why they're using it, to avoid, to escape, to deal with anxiety, versus penalizing them, sending them home, and then expecting 3 days later they're going to come back on campus and be different. And so looking at drug and alcohol and addictions is my personal passion, something I want to study and learn. And so we've really looked at this like, how do we get them help versus just punishment? I don't want them coming and giving it to anyone else, but I also want to get them the help that they need. And so we have a lot more resources now out here in the desert that we didn't have 5 years ago, too.
Was there a correlation between legalizing marijuana? I just wondered, because when it came in to be legalized, I wondered how this would affect our school system.
There's an uptick in Coachella Valley because the access to dispensaries is 10 times more than you see anywhere else in California. I was shocked by it when I moved here. So kids have more access to it. The other thing that happens is because parents have so much access to it, it's laying around the house. And we've got younger kids picking it up, not knowing what it is, and then bringing it on campus. And we're suspending the kid when all they did was pick up the thing that was lying next to their bed frame that mom left there, when we should be educating the parent. Now that does get them a CPS report.
Does Riverside Health, they come on the Rancho Mirage High School campus, is that a service that they offer us, and
It's free. It's a free service that they offer us through our mental health contract that they have with them. So they will help the parent get into rehab at no cost. They will help the student. They will be the therapist and the person if the student wants to stay in school, or they will help the student go to an inpatient center.
And for our prevention specialists, how are they funded?
They were funded out of LCAP, then they were funded out of the Learning Recovery Block Grant, and hopefully they're going back into the LCAP this year. There's 11 of them, and they're amazing.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Thank you.
So it sounds a little bit like you're using more of the restorative practices.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Very focused on finding out the root cause. Why is the student making these choices, and how do we teach the students? The whole coaching that they do with them isn't about the drug use. It's about making better choices, and why are you making the choice? It's like a diet coach or a nutritionist. Don't reach for the cake, reach for the water. Just making better choices.
Very good.
Is this filtering
Thank you.
through our wellness centers as well at all? Is it bubbling through that vein as well?
Yes, and having wellness centers are having wellness coaches and therapists and counselors accessible to any student at any time. They're having conversations. They're going in and telling the therapist, because it's a safe space, like, I need help. I'm struggling with this. It's amazing what they'll tell our people, because they know that they're not going to get in trouble first. They're going to get help first, and then so the other part is exhibiting that mental health and positive social emotional behavior. And so we asked teachers, staff members, and parents, do they think that we provide positive mental health and counseling services in the district? And our staff gave us a 91%. That went up 1%. And our parents believe, 96% of parents surveyed strongly believe that we provide efficient supports and mental health and counseling services, up 1%. Now, Simone knows I always get upset when people say, but we didn't know you had these things. And so I keep working with my department on, we have to advertise more. We have to shout out to parents of all. You can get any support for your student in this district at free dental, free medical, free mental health. Like, we have so much for our families out here that I have never seen before in other districts. It's just a matter of making sure they know it. And so that's my constant mantra to my department, is we have to spread the word of all the things, Madonna's list, that we provide. So I wanted to share with you, almost 14,000 students this year were supported for behavioral health or mental health in our wellness centers. 670 are receiving one-on-one therapy currently, no cost to the families. It's an 18-month wait list at Kaiser, and you have to pay. It's free here. We do it during the school day. 59% of our students opt to do teletherapy through our partner Daybreak. So they go into the wellness centers, into this little Superman booth, and it's soundproof, and they get on a computer and they talk to a teletherapist during the school day because the parent didn't want to arrange after school or they do sports. So it's amazing what we do for our students here.
I don't want to bring up bad news again, but how many suicide attempts have we had? Could also be in that report because we don't have knowledge of that?
I don't know that we would report out on suicide attempts, but we can report out to you how many risk assessments we've done.
Yeah, you can't report. Is that HIPAA violation by not
I don't
telling
know that it's HIPAA, but we don't. The way we classify it is through a risk assessment, and the risk assessment tells us if it's
ideation?
a tier 1 crisis, a tier 2 crisis, or a tier 3. So I can tell you how many risk assessments we've done this year. I can get you that.
I don't know, to see a rise in maybe that, especially at this time of year.
We haven't had anything that's warranted, like the amount of times when we have to call for the crisis team to come out and remove a student and 5150 them. That would be the tier 3 level. That is in the less than 20 total for the year. But I can give you the number of risk assessments. I just won't be able to tell you if it was a suicide attempt or an ideation or the different pieces there. We also, this is a repeat of information you already have. Under the positive social awareness, we look at cultural awareness and social awareness, and both are up 5% across the boards. And I think I have some other numbers for you, sorry. Just to let you know, our counselors are amazing. Every school site, secondary has 6 counselors, 5 counselors at high school, some schools have 6. Middle school, they have 2 or 3 counselors. In elementary, they have 1. 7,068 presentations our counselors gave this year. 4,460 one-on-one sessions our counselors gave this year. So the counselors do a lot of the work at tier 2, tier 1 and tier 2. And then our social workers, they're tiny but mighty. There's 6 of them. They did 1,228 group sessions and 929 one-on-one sessions. So that's a tiny little group helping a lot of students. So that's why we're riding the Golden Bell, because we have such an amazing offering of behavioral health and mental health services at tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. Attendance is the last area, positive attendance. We are on an uptick. We are 1% increase from last year. We're trying to get to 92%. We have 10 schools currently reaching that 92% rate. And then we also want to decrease chronic absenteeism, which will be the next slide. And we have 15 schools that are below 30% on that. Every single school this year has an attendance team. That's why we won the Model SARB Award from the California Department of Education. And Garrett has done a fantastic job with attendance. And he has even more to come for next year, so I'm sure he'll do an attendance presentation at some point. But you can see chronic absenteeism, we were at 35.2%. Last year we went to 27.3%, and we're trying to have schools get even better than that. We were almost at 50% a couple years ago, so we've had a very good increase. Now you'll see those are all the subgroups, and I will put in the Friday for you who's in each subgroup, so you can see who moved.
I was going to ask, who was the red and who was the orange?
There's no red, and the orange.
No, I mean for the chronic absenteeism.
No, we're going to be on this side, the right-hand side.
Oh, okay.
No one's in red. This is the current year, and American Indian is the orange.
Okay.
So we had 3 groups in the red, and this is the one that we were really happy. Foster youth went up 2 colors. 2 or more races increased by 2 colors. African Americans went up. LTELs went up. Asians and Filipinos went up. But I'll put that in the board for you.
2. 2 levels?
So Charlie, African Americans aren't last in chronic absenteeism.
Last or close to the bottom?
No, they're not.
Okay.
Not last. So making reasonable progress is our rating for all of the areas for results 4. Any questions?
Any other questions? Thank you. They're very comprehensive, and I think it's good information for the board to receive all of this, and all the good work that's being done in our district. We thank you for that and your team.
How soon do you need the picture for the Golden Bell?
The application is due June 30th, so I don't know if we could set up, Monica, a board visit to one of our wellness centers.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, we're going to move into closed session.